from Western Sydney MRC, bringing you another short tip on how to use Zoom Advanced. So this session is in conjunction with a series of workshops that we're running that gives community leaders an opportunity to come and practice being a host, being a co-host, in a kind of a safe space. We have a bit of fun, and it's pretty informal. So if you want to find out more about our training sessions for Zoom, visit our website or just send us an email, marketing@wsmrc.org.au. So in this session, we're going to be looking at polls. And polls are a really great way of you capturing success of a meeting, but also, especially in the community and the not-for-profit space, really looking at, I guess, a change or a shift of knowledge or information or confidence. So running a poll perhaps at the beginning of a session to gauge people's confidence or their knowledge base, and then running them again at the end so that you can see an improvement. And it's a really great way of kind of capturing KPIs that are quantifiable. So yeah, definitely a great way. Also it's a way to test whether an idea is great, and it's really easy to actually create polls in real time whilst you're in a meeting. So I'm going to stop looking at the camera and go over to our Zoom settings. So as you can see, on the left hand side we've got our Zoom window, on the right hand side we've got the back end of our Zoom account, just to give you a kind of clear definition of what the back end looks like, and how that then, how the changes and things that you implement in the back end then happen in the front end. So as you can see, we've got our icons across the bottom, and what we're going to be focusing on specifically is poll. So if we click polls at the moment, obviously there's just me in this meeting, sad face, but it says on screen that there are no polls created. And there are two ways that you can create a poll. You can either hit create, which if we hit create, it will take us then through to our Zoom account, and it will take us directly into the meeting that we are in and launch the poll creation straight away. Now it's worthwhile mentioning that it's worthwhile mentioning that there are two types of poll that you can create. There's a single choice poll, which is what you're seeing on screen. Apologies for the distraction behind me. The joys of working from home. You can create a single choice poll, which means you could ask a question. Are you enjoying this session? That is not the question that I'm asking, and then you can type yes. Sorry, my computer is lagging. No. And then you can add choices in, maybe. And there you go. So an individual will be able to select one of those. So that's a single choice. The other type of question that you can create is how select the words to describe this session. Maybe we should be polite. Please select the words. And so we're going to change that from a single choice selection to a multiple choice. And this is where someone can, amazing, computer was lagging, that's not necessarily a descriptive word even, informative, etc. And then an individual, once you launch the poll, will be able to select multiples of that. So for the time being, we're going to save this particular poll, and we're going to make sure that we call this poll post session evaluation. And so we're going to hit save. And so what you'll see in the back end of the account, and immediately on our pop-up here that we've activated through polls, is the poll has been created. Okay, so we're just going to close this window when it lets me close the window. Zoom doesn't like me at the moment. So we're going to close. It's not going to let me close any windows. Awesome. There we go. So this takes us back to our the back end. So I said that there were two ways of creating a poll. One is directly then through your Zoom meeting. The second is by going again into the meetings. Apologies. And selecting the meeting that you're currently in, and that will take you again back to that screen that we had before. So what we're going to do is go back to our Zoom meeting and have a look at polls. And what you can do from there is simply then launch the poll by clicking the launch button. And if you want to edit the poll, if you realise perhaps you want to add an additional word in, that you can then change that obviously before you launch it. Now, what you're seeing now is post-launch, you get the information of how many seconds that you've launched, or the time lapse of the poll that's been launched, a summary of how many questions, and then a summary of how many participants have actually filled that in. So if you had 10 participants in a meeting, that would say, it would begin by saying 0 of 10, and as people fill it in, you will see the results appear in real time. So that allows you to say once 10 of 10 have participated, or the time that you've allocated for that launching of the poll have lapsed, then you can just end poll. And you can do a few things. You can either share the results with everyone in the meeting by clicking share results, and this screen will then, and its results will appear on every participant's screen, or you can actually download the results directly. And I always recommend doing that so that you have access to them. Sometimes we've run a poll and then they've not appeared on the back end, or somebody's accidentally relaunched the poll, and it's really worthwhile knowing if you relaunch a poll, you will lose the data from the first time that you launched it. So it's really important that you download those results kind of immediately as you have access to them. You just click download and then they will appear and have been downloaded. That's part one of polls, and we'll be back for part two shortly.